Hello, everyone. I'm back as a film buff, and today I have in my sights of the 1990 American sci-fi thriller Earthquake. Have a seat. We're about to begin. Meet Valentine McKay, named Val, and his colleague Earl Bust. They're handymen in the small community of Perfect, Nevada, where only 14 people live. The guys are good friends. They really have fun working together, but they are getting pretty fed up with their menial job and decide to move to the town, which is 60 kilometers away. But apparently fate did not want to let them go, because in the village began to die mysteriously people. The first thing they find is the body of Edgar Dims. The man climbed on a transformer pole and sat there for several days, after which he died of dehydration. Then another resident is found murdered, followed by a doctor and 2 road workers. Val and Earl have to postpone their departure indefinitely and rescue their home village. The villagers are now also joined by Rhonda Libbe, a student who has come to study seismic activity, and there really is a lot to study. It turns out that people are not being killed by maniacs, as many people think, but by real underground monsters that look like worms with snake tongues. We first see the horrible creatures when Val and Earl try to figure out what happened to the doctor and his wife. They find a buried car in the sand where the doc's wife was hiding from a monster attack yesterday, but there's nothing the guys can find out at anything at the time, because they have to flee on their own. They're racing across the sand, trying not to get caught in the jaws of the bloodthirsty monster. Along the way, they see a ditch with concrete edges and decide to jump in. The monster runs into the concrete wall, crashes in, and dies. Then the guys can get a closer look at the giant. It's a worm of some sort, about 5 meters long, with a huge mouth that has snake-like tongues sticking out of it. It doesn't have eyes or a nose, so it's guided by sounds and vibrations. It's by these signs that it senses approaching objects, and it moves very quickly, and it has special teeth in its body teeth that propel it forward. The guys are shocked by the size of this enormous thing. Rhonda walks up to them. She's as surprised as the guys. Val and Earl are already plotting how they're gonna the monster to the village, except the girl explains that the instruments she set up in the desert picked up the movement yesterday, and now the bad news is that the creature here is not alone. The machines recorded movement in different places at the same time. The guys realize they need to move towards Rhonda's car, at which point the seismograph nearby starts picking up movement below. This can only means 2 worms have arrived at the sound and are now after the boys. They rush to the nearest rocks to hide from the monster, running in the sand. They decide to stay on top until the monster is different and walks away. They have to wait quite a long time. Meanwhile, Val speculates on whether the creatures came from a mutation caused by radiation or the workings by the government. After a while, the boys decide to check to see if the evil beast. Val goes down closer to the sand and grabs a stick. Almost immediately, a sinister tongue protrudes from the ground, ready to rip the wood to shreds. The student explains that the animal senses and they have to spend the night on the rock before they can do something about it in the morning. Morning comes. Earl sits brooding and stares out into the desert. Val and Rhonda wake up next to each other, the girl covered in his jacket. Rhonda shyly thanking the man for the kind gesture. The boys check again to see if there's a worm downstairs, and yes, they're critically unlucky he's still waiting for prey. Val suggests they just run to the car. After all, they managed to get away from the pursuit yesterday. While the men argue, Rhonda grabs a shelf from the ground and uses it to leap to the next rocks. The principle is the same as in pole vaulting. The guys also try to move with sticks. The method really works. So they get all the way to the girl's truck. They jump in the back together. The back of the truck. Rhonda tries to get in the cab, but the monster doesn't sleep. It unleashes its tentacles and tries to reach for the people in the back. By some miracle, the girl starts the car and manages to accelerate with her hands. How did she manage to gear shift, clutch, and throttle with her hands at the same time? It's not clear, but it's unbelievable. They manage to get away from the monster. They head for Walter Chung's shop, where the townsfolk are already gathered of the town to hear the boys' story. They don't fully believe what happened, but Mr. Chung already has a piece of the monster's tongue that Val and Earl brought in yesterday. Melvin, who is always picking on the locals, and Mr. Chang try to think of a good name for the monster, but they can't agree on anything. Val explains to everyone gathered in the shop that the monsters are getting closer and closer. You have to go to town and call for help, except there's no suitable vehicle at all to withstand the sandy terrain and the monster attack. At this point, Melvin decides to taunt Earl once again. A basketball sharply throws it at the man through the window, A few minutes later, the boy's scream is heard. Earl is already running out into the street in a frenzy. But now the danger is real. The monster has approached. Malvin miraculously manages to climb onto a table and later move to the roof of the barn. Unaware of the new attack, Nancy Stengood comes out looking for her young daughter Mindy. The girl jumps on the bouncers as if nothing had happened, making an enticing sound for the monster. Val realizes that the girl has to be rescued. He rushes to her, throws her to the ground, and tells her to save herself and her mother. He manages to jump onto the truck himself, then Rhonda is trapped. Val certainly can't let her be eaten alive. It's obvious he's taken a liking to the girl. Rhonda's legs become entangled in the barbed wire and the monster starts pulling her towards him. Val takes a pickaxe in his hand and puts it in the monster's head. He then tells the girl to take off her trousers. She obediently does so. Freeing herself from the wire, they run off together to the shop. Next, we are shown Val carefully treating the wounds on the girl's legs. The townspeople are extremely excited. They're trying to figure out what to do. Their thoughts are interrupted by the rather loud noise of a faulty of the refrigerator in the shop. It sets the worm into a frenzy, and it emerges right out of the floor of the shop. It instantly grabs Mr. Chang and drags him away with it. The others try to climb as high as they can because it's not safe on the floor. Val, Earl, and local farmer Miguel climb on top of the shop. Rhonda manages to jump out the window and climb the water tower. Another man named Nestor manages to hide on the roof of a mobile carriage, and Nancy and her daughter Mindy on the roof of their house. Everyone is terrified to see what's going on and doesn't understand what to do next.
Meanwhile, Bird and Heather Gummer return to their home from a failed monster hunt. The couple are real gun fans. Their house is this warehouse of all sorts of guns, shotguns, explosives, and automatic weapons. Heather looks through binoculars and can't make out what's going on. All their comrades in the distance are up on the roof and afraid to come down. The pair go inside and start preparing the rest of the weapons. Meanwhile, Val and Earl contact them on the radio. They ask Bird and Heather to get to the roof of the building quickly because the monsters have gone in their direction. Bird takes a long time to figure out why, questioning, looking out the windows until their house begins to shake. Then a hole forms in the wall, and from there a huge mouth of the monster.
The pair shoot back with whatever they can. They have a pretty impressive arsenal, so they are able to change weapons every couple of minutes. Despite this, one of the worm's tongues manages to grab the man's leg. Heather starts aiming at the tongue itself, and soon frees her husband. Eventually, the pair manage to stun and then kill the enormous creature altogether. They share their successes with the others over the radio, but there are two more of the same monsters alive. Bird and Heather finally make it to the roof of their house, taking an impressive arsenal with them. Val on the radio asks them to kill two more of the creatures. They can be seen circling around the couple's house. Bird assures them that he can handle it, but it turns out it's not that easy. The pair take turns shoot sand with the biggest caliber, but still can't get it. Val realizes that Bird's truck is well suited for a run for help. While they're discussing it, one of the monsters gets close to the water tower where Rhonda is hiding. The monster also gets close to the shop and tries to demolish it from the ground. The monster examines every building that is there. Finally, it finds the weakest, Nestor's van. The man is unable to hold on, and so he is mercilessly eaten in front of everyone. The survivors come up with a new plan. Going for help makes no sense, as the others won't be able to get it, so Val suggests they all run for their lives together. Just when Bird says they're going to go to the rescue to evacuate everyone, there's a noise from below and the sound of an alarm. A monster bursts the tires of an SUV and incapacitates it. Val walks back and forth across the roof in despair. Suddenly, Earl comes up with an ingenious idea: to use the bulldozer they have in the village. Miguel suggests distracting the monster by launching and sending forward a small tractor, which is parked outside the shop to attract attention. Miguel goes down and starts it up while the lads argue over who will run heroically. Val is the faster runner, and Earl is the better driver of the heavy machinery. As a result of the argument, Earl wins, but Val takes off sharply and rushes off into the distance. The monster does indeed reacts to the tractor and tries to catch up. Val is hurtling towards his target, but the tractor hits a bump and flips over. Astonished, Val turns round and even stops. Now the worms are running to catch up only him. He comes to his senses abruptly and gets back on course, running away almost impossible, so Rhonda advises the lads to stop and freeze. If he doesn't move, the blind monster won't find him. Everyone holds their breath. Val, with his face as frightened as possible, tries to control himself. Then the guys who have stayed on the rooftops try to distract the monsters. They shout and make as much noise as possible. Rhonda guesses to kick through the pipe that brings water into the tank. This sound distracts the worms, and Val is able to run to the bulldozer. Val hooks the trailer and rushes to his friend's aid. He picks up Rhonda and then everyone else on board. The monster can't get a proper grip on the tracks while the machine is moving. The rescued couple pulls up to Bert and Heather. They take a very long time to decide which guns to take with them. The couple finally climbs aboard and they all move together towards the mountains. The crew seems to be going well and very confident, but suddenly they run into a treacherous trap of creatures. They have dug a hole for the bulldozer to overturn. The boys find themselves trapped by the immobilized trailer, and now Bert decides to use his secret weapon, a homemade explosive. He throws it on the ground and tells everyone to duck, and it works. The monster is really afraid of the explosion. Bird sets another bomb on fire and throws it into the distance. When it explodes, everyone runs away. The guys make it safely, but only as far as the rocks in the middle of the desert, and climb up there. A great idea comes up to do some so-called fishing expedition, which consists of tying explosives to a rope and throwing it far away so that the animal swallows the bait. The guys throw rocks in the distance to attract attention, then Earl throws the dynamite like a lasso. The monster eats the bait and dies from the explosion. There's only one monster left. The guys repeat the same action, but Val throws the explosive now. His shot is also aimed, but the monster refuses to eat it, throwing the dynamite back to the guys. They barely manage to dodge it, but Val, Earl, and Rhonda end up on the sand. Val wants to outsmart the snake, so the three of them make a run for it, with the last of the dynamite in the guy's hand. The three run up to a cliff, another meter and an abyss under it. Rhonda sets fire to the explosive and Val tries to throw it at the monster, but it doesn't work. Unfortunately, Earl and Rhonda run off in different directions. The bewildered Val remains standing to the last man on the edge of the cliff. He waits for the worm gets too close, and at the last moment bounces away. Aside, the monster pierces the cliff with its incredible strength and flies into the abyss, killing it instantly. Val, Earl, and Rhonda look down and start laughing hysterically, going back to their friends. Later, everyone in the village celebrates their victory over the monsters. Rhonda takes a picture of Earl and Val near the monster truck. The boys, they say they're going to be famous. Rhonda's happy too, because she can do scientific research on these things. And I'm not talking about Earl and Val, although they're still in touch with Val. As the girl's about to head back to town, he comes up to her and kisses her. That's the romantic moment. That's where the movie ends. That's it for me. The film, although very entertaining, still gives the impression of a very good movie. I hope you enjoyed it, and that you'll like this video, and there's more to come. Bye.